Well, we are also hearing chilling new warnings for police in Louisiana tonight, where an African-American man was killed in an altercation with police on Tuesday. The FBI saying multiple groups are calling for revenge now. The agency flagging one social media post reading, quote, "Baton Rouge purge starts July 9th at 12 a.m. Rule 1, must kill every police." Over the last 48 hours, there have been a string of attacks on law enforcement in 4 different states, including Texas. Yesterday, an African-American man opened fire on cops in Tennessee. Today, gunmen targeted police in Georgia and Missouri in attacks described as ambushes. Mark Fuhrman is a former LAPD homicide detective and a Fox News contributor. Brad Thor is a former member of the Homeland Security Department's Analytic Red Cell Unit and a New York Times best-selling author. This is just so dark and so disturbing and feels like it's escalating. Mark, what are your thoughts?
I think it is, Megan, and I think it fuels its own fire that really is kind of under the radar. It's kind of under journalism and the written word and what is really, what people are really willing to speak out about. There's an underground that we're going to have to deal with, and you know, this shooting and all these shootings, we don't understand how they occur. There's no flags like this suspect. There really wasn't any flags, yet the people that are the closest to him, they see the rage and they see the anger and the escalation of it, and they know something's going to happen, yet they fail to come forward.
Well, speaking of the people who know the shooters, right? Because this guy wasn't on the radar for anything like we saw in Orlando. You know, the guy had been investigated by the FBI. Not this guy. Look at this is what the gunman's sister put up just a couple of days ago, the night before. "White people have and will continue to kill us off. I, for one, think these cops need to get a taste of the life we now fear." It doesn't sound like somebody, Brad, who was prepared to turn in a potentially violent brother.
No, and Mark had it absolutely right. And I would say that the fire is more like a fire that happens behind the drywall in your house. And you don't notice it's there until the house is completely going up in flames. And the big problem here is that we are not combating this absolute BS garbage out of Black Lives Matter. President Obama has let this go on far too long. The left and the Democrats have basically sat on the sidelines and allowed these people to declare an all-out war on police, and it must stop immediately. There's been, you know, a big brush. A lot of these folks paint with a very big brush, Mark, and they find a couple of shootings that are deeply problematic. There's no question we've seen that over the past year, and try to push a narrative that all cops are bad and all cops are out to kill innocent young black men.
Well, Megan, we could have done this for the last 5 decades, 10 decades. You can always find something that doesn't look like justice was served one way or another, where somebody made a mistake, somebody was overzealous, somebody was over-aggressive. If you're going to take this micro moment in the history of a city, a county, a state, or a country, and use that as a movement, you can never combat this. There's always going to be something. It's like having a perfect family. It doesn't exist.
Especially in the days of iPhones, Brad, and social media, where, you know, every encounter gets caught on camera. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's happening more. It's getting caught on camera more. But the vast majority of police officers out there want to protect us and want to enforce the law and don't run around shooting innocent people. However, you don't hear that message forcefully brought by all the people in power.
No, of course not. This is the balkanization of the United States of America. This is a very, very dangerous road for us to go down. The police are great people, by and large. Every organization's got a couple in there that aren't good. We talk all the time about how the majority of the world's Muslims are good, peaceful people. You know what? That same sort of stuff that the left pushes all the time, which that happens to be true, needs to be applied to our police officers as well. This absolutely cannot go on like this. You're not going to have anybody who wants to be a cop anymore. Well, if we're going to demonize them like this, forget it. Who's going to want this job?
I want to ask you about that, Mark. Not only the demonization, but now just cops don't make a lot of money. You don't get into policing so you can get rich. And so they don't make a lot of money. Now they're being disrespected and demonized. And now, even more than normal, they always put their lives on the line when they go out to do the job. They've got to worry about getting ambushed, getting shot in the head just because they're standing there protecting Black Lives Matter protesters in this particular case.
Megan, you can see the way police officers are by looking at the fire department. It's a brotherhood. It's the same brotherhood. Yet firemen, they have a different level in the community because they don't have to take any aggressive action on the community. They put out fires. They help people. Well, police help people in a different way. They help people, in fact, thousands of people that they will never see, meet, or make contact with. They help every time they take a violent criminal off the street. But you have to be proactive enough to engage those suspects to get them off the street. When you demoralize a brotherhood like this, they are not going to just lay down and say, okay, we're going to do nothing. We're just going to lock ourselves up in the car. They're going to continue to do the work because they're cops. They love being cops. You're right. They're not there to make money. They're not making that much money. You could probably make more being a manager at a grocery store.
It's so hard to see what they go through. And then, of course, you see the other side where there are some bad shootings and you understand the outrage. Guys, great to see you.
Thank you, Megan.
Well, the Reverend Jesse Jackson last night described Dallas as a, quote, terror attack. He's here next on that. Plus, Sheriff David Clark will join us with what he calls a tale of two shootings as he compares the attack on a black church to the ambush of these Dallas officers. And then why won't the Attorney General take our questions about the attack in Dallas? We'll investigate that when we come back in moments.
Attorney General, what do you believe explains the spike in police murders?